A woman crashed her car on a remote road. Police arrived just 7 minutes later, and she had already vanished, without leaving a single footprint in the snow. So what happened in those 7 minutes? On a cold winter night in February 2004, a car crashed on a quiet road in rural New Hampshire. The road was dark, snow covered the ground, and the nearest town was miles away. A local resident heard the crash and looked out his window. A car had slid into a snowbank. Inside was a young woman. She seemed shaken but conscious. He offered to call the police. She refused. Instead, she told him something strange. She said she had already called roadside assistance. But there was a problem. There was no cell phone reception anywhere on that road. The man drove away to call the police. When officers arrived just 7 minutes later, the car was still there. The lights were on. Her belongings were inside. But the driver had completely disappeared. That driver was Maura Murray. And more than 20 years later, no one knows where she went. Before her disappearance, Maura Murray's life seemed promising. She was 21 years old, a nursing student at University of Massachusetts Amherst. She had once been a standout high school athlete, running track and cross country. Friends described her as intelligent, quiet, and fiercely independent. But like many college students, Maura was also dealing with pressure. School, relationships, expectations. And in the days before she vanished, something in her life appeared to be changing. Several days before she disappeared, Maura began behaving in ways that investigators would later find unusual. She emailed her professors. In the message, she explained that she would be gone for a week due to a family emergency. But according to her family, there was no emergency. Around the same time, Maura withdrew nearly all the money from her bank account. Then she visited a liquor store and purchased several bottles of alcohol. Investigators would later question why. Was she planning a trip? Was she escaping from something? Or was she simply taking a break from school? No one knows for sure. But that same afternoon, Maura packed some belongings into her car and began driving north. Maura left Amherst sometime in the afternoon. Her destination remains unknown. But investigators later discovered she had searched for directions to areas in the White Mountains. Perhaps she wanted solitude. Perhaps she needed time to think. But the drive would end unexpectedly. Hours later, Maura's car was traveling through Haverhill, a quiet rural community. And then, her car crashed. The crash happened along a narrow road surrounded by snow-covered woods. A local school bus driver stopped to check on her. He later told investigators that Maura seemed shaken, but she refused help. He offered to call police. Again, she declined. Instead, she insisted that roadside assistance had already been contacted, which didn't make sense, because there was no phone signal. The driver returned home and called authorities anyway. Police arrived at the crash site shortly after, but Maura Murray was gone. Her car remained at the scene. Inside were several strange details: alcohol containers, her phone, personal belongings. But there was no sign of Maura herself. Tracking dogs were brought to the scene. The dogs followed her scent for a short distance, before suddenly losing it in the middle of the road, which led investigators to consider one disturbing possibility. She may have gotten into another vehicle. Authorities launched an extensive search. Helicopters, tracking dogs, volunteers. Teams searched miles of surrounding forest. But the snow revealed something unusual. There were no footprints leading into the woods. If Maura had run into the forest, there would have been tracks. But there were none, which raised a haunting question. Where did she go? Over time, investigators discovered additional clues. A rag stuffed into the car's exhaust pipe, the alcohol bottles found in the vehicle, and the strange emails she sent to her professors. Each clue raised new questions. Was she planning to disappear? Was she fleeing from something? Or did she encounter someone in those 7 minutes after the crash? Over the years, countless theories have emerged. Some believe Maura accepted a ride from someone passing by. Others think she may have wandered off and succumbed to the cold. Another theory suggests she intentionally disappeared to start a new life. But none of these theories have ever been proven. The road where Maura Murray's car crashed still exists. Cars still drive along that same curve in the snow. But somewhere in those 7 minutes, something happened. Something that caused a young woman to disappear without leaving a trace. "7 minutes. That's all it took. 7 minutes. For a real person to vanish from the world. Without a single footprint. Without a single scream. Without a single trace. No evidence of where she went. No sign of who she met. No proof she ever left that road. But here's what makes this case truly terrifying. Someone had to see her. A car passing by. A house nearby. A shadow in the trees. Because people don't just disappear. They are either running from something, or they're running into something. And if Maura Murray didn't walk into the woods, and she didn't stay with her car, then there's only one possibility left. She got into a vehicle with someone who was there in those 7 minutes, someone who has never come forward, and maybe never will.